Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa di Casual. Ho il piacere di presentarvi il creatore della serie e produttore esecutivo Zander Lehman, le attrici, gli attori Michaela Watkins, Tara Lynne Barr e Thomas Dewey, e il regista e produttore Jason Reitman. Dunque, in attesa delle vostre domande, io vorrei cominciare proprio con il creatore della serie, ammesso che prenda...
I hear nothing.
She said she wanted to start with the mastermind behind the series.
Oh, great.
She said some horrible things.
Oh, no.
It was a kiss show.
Yes, I can hear
It's
it.
mostly questions about your sex life so far.
Oh, okay, great. That's easy.
That's my question.
Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I didn't do a question yet. Allora,
She said she wanted to start with
no, la domanda è questa. Un fratello scapolo e una sorella divorziata che tornano a vivere sotto lo stesso tetto è davvero una strana coppia. Dove nasce l'idea di raccontare una famiglia che, come dire, il senso comune definirebbe disfunzionale, ma che invece è tutto fuorché disfunzionale, perché in realtà a suo modo funziona benissimo.
Yes, I used to live with my sister, so we're very close. And when I was living with her, she started to date one of my close friends. And they moved in together, and as an act of revenge, I wrote this television series about them. And that was the sort of genesis of the idea. And then when Jason and the other producers and our actors came in, they added their own experiences with their families, and it became this sort of amalgam of all of our family experiences to make something that I think is very sweet, but yes, dysfunctional at times, uncomfortable at times, but ultimately it's a story about a brother and a sister who love each other and want the best for each other. And we sort of tell the story based on how they can find that happiness and the sort of obstacles that come in their path.
Invece a Jason Reitman vorrei chiedere che cosa l'ha conquistata di questi personaggi che in un certo senso mi sembrano parenti stretti dei personaggi che lei ci ha raccontato al cinema. Quindi se questa vicinanza l'ha sentita, insomma, perché ha deciso di raccogliere questa sfida?
You know, the thing that I look forward the thing that I look for most in a screenplay is a voice. I think that there's a lot of writing out there, but there's very few original voices. And what really turned me on the most was Zander's voice. It was one of the few that I've read that I thought I really want to direct this. And then what really got me excited about the story was how provocative this relationship was. I have a sister. I do not talk to her about my sex life. I thought there's something fascinating about how open these two people were with each other, and that somehow they became the couple, that this brother and sister completed a kind of family unit that left little room for anybody else. I thought that was interesting.
Ci sono delle domande? Una delle cose più intriganti di questa relazione tra fratello e sorella, che comunque di questa serie, è il fatto che nessuno dei personaggi è davvero quello che appare. Valérie è una terapeuta che però non mette in pratica i consigli che dà ai suoi pazienti. Alex è un uomo che vive un po' come un eterno adolescente, ma cerca in realtà una relazione stabile, seppur cercando di aiutare la sorella a sentirsi a proprio agio in una nuova vita da single. E forse Laura, che è la più adulta del trio, in fondo però è ancora una bambina. Sotto questa sua corazza è ancora una bambina. Quindi volevo sentire dai tre interpreti di raccontarci un po' i loro personaggi in questa chiave.
Well, one thing that I really took to in Zander's script was this idea of a character who puts on a coat of armor to kind of make it through the day, and that extends to what he does with his dating site, finding a date, a new woman every night to kind of distract him from what he might really be feeling. And as this series progresses, the fun of it and the challenge for me is the peeling away of all of that to see what's really beneath it. And Michaela and I have said this before, but there's this idea that these are two people in the center of this kind of familial storm hanging onto each other for dear life, which is a really interesting, cool relationship. Jason spoke to it that I haven't seen on television before.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Michaela e basta così per tutto l'italiano che posso dire oggi.
Great.
You win. Allora, so the thing that really attracted me as well was very similar to what Tommy said, but is there a therapist out there, I would love to know, who actually practices what they preach? Would love to meet them. So I think what I also love is that they hold on to each other for dear life, like he said, but if they it rides the line of where they need each other to survive, but they also hinder each other to grow in many ways. And I think that is a relatable familial dynamic that a lot of us sort of deal with, where we need our family so much to know ourselves, and then at the same time, what is our becoming? How do we grow out of that? And I think Zander's voice, the show never falls where you think it's going to. You think you know the direction of where these characters will go, but then it holds back. And I like that restraint in the show. I'm not really sure what the question was.
Me either.
Ripeto la domanda. La domanda era sul fatto che i personaggi non sono quello che sembrano, perché apparentemente sono qualcosa, ma in realtà nascondono nascondono qualcos'altro, per cui il personaggio della terapeuta vorrebbe dare giusti consigli, ma in realtà non li mette in pratica, e mi sembra che il personaggio di Laura sia la più adulta del trio, ma che in realtà dietro questa durezza, questa sicurezza, anche questo sarcasmo, nasconda invece un lato infantile che spesso viene fuori, quindi c'è sempre una sorta di doppio binario nei personaggi.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is that when we first meet these characters, we see their facade first, and we see for him a Lothario who is really looking for intimacy, and for Valerie, it's when you have parents who've screwed up your psyche a little bit, you try to take control of your life in a big way. And when we meet these people, we find that the way they've been living their lives to that point has not worked for them. And now they are sort of at this breaking point where something else needs to begin, or they will atrophy and die. So, emotionally.
I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I found shooting it very cathartic, I have to say, because starting out with, as Michaela said, such restraint in the beginning, and then sort of letting the armor, the facade slip away. I found it felt so natural too. By the end of the season, I think we were all like, I think you've said it before, emotionally constipated, and we were just like dying to sort of really express what we've been feeling about these characters. And I also think people will be able to relate to it a lot too, because I find that a lot of people are wearing masks and wearing armor, and I think that's something that people can, respond to.
Well, that's one of the most exciting things about a good script and acting that's really satisfying, fulfilling, is that interplay between mask and reality. If you're just saying what you mean all the time, it gets fairly boring. And Zander's great with subtext.
And I think he sort of wrote the show trusting that the audience was going to be as smart as he is, and the rest of our writers. So I think that's nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
questo è un tipo di commedia che richiede evidentemente una grande complicità tra gli attori e una grande complicità tra il regista e gli attori, immagino, perché ci sono dei dialoghi velocissimi, molto brillanti, c'è un timing perfetto, quindi l'idea è quella di vedere una famiglia vera e quello si percepisce una grande naturalezza nei rapporti tra gli attori. Come avete raggiunto questa grande complicità che riuscite a trasmettere?
I mean, I hate to give you such a simple answer, but I think the truth is that it comes down to just getting the right people. And that's why I think casting's so important. You know, for Zander and I, when we were doing casting, I think what we kept on talking about, how does it sound? Not how do they look? Well, they look great. But how do they sound? Because it's really, you know, they're instrumentalists. And do they know how to play the music? And if they know how to play the music right, then you don't find yourself on set adjusting the levels as much as you're just letting them, you know, when they're in tune.
Ci sono delle domande? C'è una domanda qui davanti.
Allora, Alberto Refrigio, quella vicina, benvenuti a tutti. La domanda va subito al creatore della serie, anche io ho un fratello depresso che mi è ritornato a casa, che mi crea un sacco di problemi, quindi la serie già in parte qualcosina mi ha ricordato. Noi abbiamo visto solo un episodio adesso, quindi è un po' difficile giudicare, sembra quasi il Brody Danny Rosa, cioè sono passato dalla sala a qua, dico Dio, sono uscito dallo schermo. E quindi la domanda che volevo fare è questa, l'idea, lei ha detto c'è una sorella e tutto quanto, però tutto lo sviluppo, cioè spesso vediamo serie americane irreali, cose, invece questa è molto 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 reale, molto veritiera. A molte persone può sembrare una cosa assurda, ma anche io conosco famiglie di questo tipo, anche qui in Italia, quindi non vi siete inventati nulla, ecco. Quindi volevo sapere proprio come è nata tutta la genesi e come vi siete conosciuti con Reitman, con la mia grande curiosità.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We definitely strive for realism on this show. And I think in the way that we wrote it, in the way that we cast it, the way that Jason shot it, the emphasis has always been on the reality of it. And I think the jokes and the drama both come secondarily to the reality. Because I think for us, the way to sort of touch people and have a show that's effective and makes people feel something is for it to be relatable, for them to understand, I've known these characters, I've seen these characters, I've felt these characters. To me, that's always the most important thing. As far as meeting up with Jason and the rest of the producers, it was a somewhat long process. Jason and I share an agent, and she thought Jason would be right for the project. He was in the middle of shooting his last movie, and I waited for him because he, to me, was the perfect person to direct it. I felt like his tone and the way that he got realistic performances and truthful, honest moments spoke to the script that I had written and the show that I wanted to make. So I waited for him and was lucky enough to get him because he truly made my vision. I feel like when I watch the show, I'm just watching my script. It's not like I'm watching a different show. I'm watching exactly the show that I imagined, the show that I wrote. And we were very in sync from the start. Jason, his producer Helen, who's fantastic, our other producer Liz. You know, we had a full group of people who they made it all come alive, and we were all on the same page from the start. And I think it's really important in a show like this, where tone is so specific, and if you go astray for even one beat, it'll feel false, and you sort of lose your audience. You lose the trust you've built up. So I feel like through the first 10 episodes, we maintain that trust, and the show goes into some crazier places, but because of those early episodes, I think we sort of are on board with the characters. We believe them, we trust them, we live with them. And in that way, I find the show to be very satisfying and gratifying to make.
Domande? Vorrei chiedere se sono state fatte delle ricerche, se vi siete un po' immersi nel mondo dei dating website, se avete incontrato, parlato con persone che li frequentano e che cosa avete scoperto e non so.
I get this question a fair amount. People want to know about my dating life, which I am sad to say is largely boring. I mostly dated, I've mostly been in relationships. I tried it out a little bit. I tried some of the online dating just to see how the interface worked. And I have friends who've obviously met their partners, had crazy dating stories through these sites. I think in today's world, there's a lot of places to find partnership, and the dating site is one way, but I feel like it's not truly indicative of the show. I think it's just one way in for Tommy's character, especially to try to find love and connection. My sense is, you know, he finds it equally in the house with his sister and with his niece. I think my own dating experiences, I've had some good relationships, some bad, but my relationship with my family, again, was sort of the more important one, and I felt like that was the more interesting thing to explore. So I've done less online dating than I probably should. I don't have any crazy horror stories, although some of the other writers do have a lot of crazy horror stories that we used. So a lot of the show is based on their real dating experiences.
Reitman si era occupato in un certo senso di social anche in un film precedente, Men, Women and Children, e qui i social, anche se tangenzialmente ritornano, qual è il suo rapporto con i social network?
I didn't really research social media for Men, Women, and Children. I thought the book that was written by Chad Culkin had all the insight we needed, I think, to make that film. I'm on Twitter, and it's fun. I think there's kind of a charm to it, but I'm not as deeply embedded as if I was 10 years younger, I'd probably be more deeply embedded.
Domande? Prego.
Sì, volevo chiedere al regista se ci spiega il titolo Casual, ecco come avete scelto Casual, e poi tra il fare il film e fare una serie, se ha preferenze, se per lei è indifferente, come cambia il suo approccio quando deve affrontare una cosa piuttosto che l'altra, e se forse la televisione offre più possibilità, le serie offrono più possibilità di sperimentare di quanto non accade in cinema, forse. Grazie.
I did not title the show, so I think you should answer that question.
Okay. The title, I think, is almost a joke in a way, because it's a group of characters who are so open and frank about their relationships to each other, but at the same time, their lives are so not casual. You know, they have serious drama and serious heartbreak and heartache, and I think as you watch the show, you can sort of laugh at the title because you realize these people have a front of casualness, but beneath there's sort of nothing casual about them, and I sort of like that as an indicator of the tone of the show, is sort of a little dry, humorous remark of sort of how these people live. So that's sort of how we came up with it.
I found that directing a television show is very similar to directing a film. Writing a television show is very different from writing a film. I think a film is all about the ending. When I think about making a movie, when I'm writing a film, I'm thinking about where am I going to leave with the audience at the end. I want to hit you in exactly the right way right before you walk out the theater. So everything in a film that I'm writing that leads up to that last moment, that punch, it serves really only to annihilate the viewer perfectly so that they walk out and think about it. Television doesn't end. If you think about it, we don't often think about the last episode of a television show. We think about the beats that happen along the way. So in writing a television show, what you're thinking about is how to get person to the next episode and the next episode and the one after that. So the only way that it affected me in the directing was, in directing these first two episodes, how am I establishing a tone that can carry on through other directors? How do I set up shooting a location so that there will always be an interesting way to shoot this location? And how do I not use up all the space so that there's still space for the actors to go and the other directors to go?
Domande? C'è una domanda lì? Prego.
Buongiorno, io volevo sapere, visto che Casual è un prodotto di Hulu, la serie è nata come un progetto appunto da proporre a un servizio alternativo alla rete commerciale o via cavo, oppure avevate appunto intenzione di dar vita a questo show e poi di diciamo provare a venderlo ai circuiti più tradizionali?
We wrote the show, or I wrote the first 2 episodes before we took it out to the networks. And it reads like any other half-hour comedy, dramedy that you could find on any other network. I think that's one of the reasons that we like we liked Hulu because they told us, we will make this like any other show. You're not making a web series. This is a television series, and we'll give you the money to make it, and we'll give you the infrastructure. So in that way, it felt very traditional in a way. We sort of structured it like any other TV series, although they let us do more. They let us take more risks. They didn't fight back on a lot of things, which was kind of wonderful.
I like what you mentioned usually about how it feels like a movie that's told over 10 episodes.
Yes.
So that was a secret.
We felt like we wanted to tell a story. We wanted to tell a story that felt like a movie stretched out over 4.5 hours, basically. So, it's broken up into episodes, but you could watch episodes 1 through 10 in a row, and I think it would feel like you're watching a 4.5 hour Jason Reitman indie dramedy, which is sort of exactly what we wanted to make, and something that we felt the television business did not have at the moment. So yeah, I think it was great that they let us do that. The show looks like a movie, which we love. Jason comes from movies. I don't have a ton of TV experience. It sort of became this marriage of indie film and television that gave us a show that we think is sort of unique.
Io, ricollegandomi alla domanda precedente sulla differenza o le similitudini di approccio tra film e serie, vorrei chiedere a Reitman di commentare questa dichiarazione che ho letto, credo abbia fatto, che in realtà lavorare per questa serie è stato come realizzare un film indipendente. Davvero le serie adesso sono diciamo, il degno sostituto del cinema indipendente di cui molti autori sentono la mancanza?
I look at what's happening in television right now, and it reminds me of what I fell in love with in independent film in the 1990s. The reason why I wanted to become a filmmaker was directors like Tarantino and Linklater and Kevin Smith and Sofia Coppola and all these filmmakers that came out of the early to mid-90s and film festivals who were provocative and daring and who saw kind of a new road to take filmmaking. And it was exciting to go see one of their movies. It almost felt dangerous. It felt like punk rock. And I look at what's happening in television right now, and I feel the same way. I look at shows like Fargo or Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, or there's all these extraordinary shows which with very daring voices, which are always surprising me, which get me excited to watch television. I think there are true auteurs in TV right now, and it certainly got me excited about the idea of making a show myself. Once making it, you find yourself on set, and it's kind of the same thing. You show up at 7, you have a breakfast burrito, you work with some actors, you set up some shots. The idea is the same, and certainly we were very lucky in that Hulu supported us the same way Fox Searchlight supported me in the past.
E volevo chiedere la stessa cosa agli attori, cioè se sentono lo stesso fermento, se la televisione in questo momento sta dando loro opportunità che il cinema non offre più o offre meno.
Well, I think that's the case, certainly. But one thing that's nice about this series, and Zander spoke to it, is that it's serialized in a way that allows you to really take a journey with a character. Michaela and I come from doing a lot of half-hour comedy, and there has been a conceit for too long, I think, in network half-hour that you have to button up every episode and almost start over the next week. And this is a long, like Zander says, you could watch it as a long movie, and that's really satisfying from an acting standpoint.
Non ho qualcosa importante per dire, ma quando parlo italiano lui è molto arrabbiata. Allora è molto divertente per me. Scusa. Allora, but in terms of working in film versus television, this is going to sound so crazy, but television has almost become more. I love independent film, and it is my happy place. But now that television has sort of risen to the same level. It is more, in a way, this has been the most satisfying experience I've ever had doing this show more than any film, because it's like a film, except that it's 5 hours long. And, you know, when you add it all up, the first 3 episodes are like the first act of the film, and the next 3 the second act, and so on. So it's delving more into a character than you do in a film, but yet you get to maintain the same kind of tone and exploration that you would in many films. Not all, obviously, there's so many different genres, but in terms of indie particularly. And working with a streaming service like Hulu, you get the freedom, creatively and artistically, to do things that before were not, I mean, when I say before, I mean 5 years ago, not ever done in television. And so it's a whole new world now.
It's like David Lean made a Sundance with it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say maybe after like 6 or 7 seasons we'd get a little exhausted with our characters.
No.
Laura would be I don't know, pre-med or grad school, something like that.
Oh no, we have horrible things planned.
Oh, we have horrible things planned. Can't wait. Season 6. Here
Takes
we
place
come.
in Rome, I think, season 6.
But I agree with everything Tommy and Michaela said. It is sort of, I mean, I'll say it again, it is very cathartic to be able to be with these characters for so long. And also they're characters that you don't mind being with for so long, which is a testament to you. Good or bad, you always sort of feel like it's all worth it in the end.
Bene, allora ci fermiamo qui. Grazie mille a tutti voi.